Hello everyone and welcome. Sit back, relax, make a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink and get ready for new stories from Yellowcat. Send your own favorite stories in the comments below and maybe they'll be in our new video. So subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet and let's get started. Could you share your alright then I resign story, part 7? The front desk of a mid-range hotel that was overpriced was where I worked. During the busy summer months, you're essentially on call and are expected to arrive early and stay late. She persuaded us to do her job for her, which included accounting and scheduling for a fee of $7 per hour. Included taking the brunt of the yelling, put-downs, and shady business that was done by the boss lady. Dissatisfied customers, rooms that were not cleaned, credit cards that were overcharged, incorrect reservations, incorrect room type, etc. The attitude she has here? It's too bad. We do not acknowledge our errors. As soon as we receive the credit card information, the customers pay the full price. It is no longer a problem for us after that. In the manner of a true leader, she abandoned us to carry out her policies on her own. It was a convenient fact that this manager was never available. Because of the hateful way in which she spoke, I was led to believe that she disdained the majority of other people. They were beneath her, and the only thing that mattered was money. I was a college student at the time, and the job was rough on me. Each and every day, I dreaded it. The rate of turnover was alarmingly high. Also, she was never to blame for it. It was me who stayed the longest for almost 3 months. Then, on a Sunday morning that was extremely busy, she called me over and over again to come in early, but I chose to ignore her calls and arrived at the appointed time of 7 o'clock. It was already possible for me to hear her yelling at another worker about the fact that I had not called her back, how unprofessional I am, as well as specifics about the day that was going to be an absolute nightmare for me at that moment. We had more than 120 rooms to clean before we checked in at 3 o'clock, and a large number of housekeepers just quit. In addition to the fact that she needed to run some errands, we had recently run out of major breakfast items, received a large number of complaints, and someone had just S in the pool. It was as if time had slowed down. I placed the cardboard rectangle with a cream-colored background inside the time clock. The gears gradually wear out one by one. 7:03 in the morning, I was completely slammed by an angry boss woman who swoops in and lays into me, a voice that is extremely loud, raising one's arm. As is typical for me, I'm tardy, unmotivated, and unreliable. Then, without any hesitation, I immediately clocked out of the room. With trembling hands, I pulled my navy polo shirt over my head and hurled it to the coworker who had worked the shift before mine. In a shaken voice, boss lady asks, "Well, when are you coming back then?" I'm not. I leave the room. Got hired at Best Buy. Told them I needed to give my 2 weeks notice to the bank job I was leaving. They accepted and asked if I could work part-time so that, ironically, I could finish the training in time for Black Friday in 2 weeks. I tell them I can't stay after 10 p.m. because I opened the bank at 6 a.m., but I agree. Work hours would be 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the bank and 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at Best Buy. They concurred. As an aside, they told me during my interview that I'd be a great fit for the supervisor position they were opening up, declared it to be mine, which is the primary reason I chose the entry-level role. On my first day, I learned that a recent high school graduate was given the job. Okay, whatever. Enjoying my work, the nights pass. Leaving at 9 or 10, depending on the closing tasks every time. We need to perform a thorough store inventory, facial, and cleaning a few days prior to Black Friday. It stinks, but hey, it's 10 o'clock at night. I walk up to the girl who was just hired as the supervisor and tell her I'm heading out for the evening. "No, you're not. Till we're done, we work." Sorry, but it was agreed I wouldn't work past 10 during my first 2 weeks since I'm still working my old job. "I don't give a D. You work until everyone has finished." Okay. Walked out and didn't turn around. Likewise, kept the blue shirts. A coworker called me in a panic at 2 or 3 in the morning on Black Friday. It was actually voicemail. I didn't even hear it ring. He was freaking out when they had me down to work laptops with him. P.S. I asked my bank supervisor if I could cancel my 2-week leave of absence and still be employed. Indeed, she exclaimed. "Thanks, Nan. Always appreciated you. I was a liquor store employee. The store was purchased by an accountant who previously owned a large produce business. He looked for and purchased a turnkey store, meaning he would not actually be involved in the operation. Then he reached inside it with his hands. We had double-digit growth every year until he bought the store, and then the first year after, just to give you an idea, his best friend was employed there as well. Neither of them had any experience with alcohol, but they sure as H pretended to. The new owner was always there and would talk S about everyone, saying how amazing he was and what amazing things he would do for everyone. He was there with me one day, along with his best friend, our marketing guy, and the 65-year-old man he wouldn't fire due to his advanced age. They kept getting in the way of my enormous order, which I was putting up without offering to help. When I had finished putting everything away, my supervisor entered. When I went next door to get a soda, our marketing guy and the owner were also there. We engaged in standard small talk before I returned to my work. About 10 minutes after the owner returned, my boss showed up in the back room where I work to inform me that I'm not allowed to go next door unless I'm taking a break. Even though it wasn't the usual request, this one makes sense now. Any demand made by the owner is acceptable. Only Velcro shoes. Alright, strange, but you're in charge. But instead of telling me when he saw me next door, hey man, it's fine if you get your drinks now, just try to make sure it's only on breaks from now on, he waited to have my boss tell me. I called my wife, told her I was quitting, and told my boss, hey, I'm pulling a Spencer, and handed him my walkie-talkie and left. Pulling a Spencer was walking out. Spencer, who was going through a difficult moment in his life, went to lunch 2 weeks ago and never returned. When he failed to return, we texted him, and he responded with a picture from the airport. He made a cross-country flight. A few months later, the owner fired my boss for questioning the boss's, integrity. A signed contract was altered by the owner to take $25,000 out of my boss's bonus that year. I didn't quit, I was fired. A week after they announced they were downsizing the company, which basically meant the CEO was spending way too much money on himself, my former boss tried to get me to sign a document giving them my entire client list in exchange for a $3,000 bonus. They also tried to get me to sign a 2-year non-compete clause. To be clear, this is an independent contractor agency, which means that all of the talent agent staff members are essentially independent contractors, and that the agency and the business split revenue. You can see how bad this idea is. The upside is that you get your own talent that collaborates with you directly, and that you make the majority of the decisions. When I refused, he said, well, we don't feel comfortable keeping you here if you don't. To be clear, there was no sign of a contract extension or raise. I informed him that it seemed that he, rather than me, was the one with the issue. After 1 month, they let me go. Not to brag, but since I started my own company, we've made more money, attracted more clients, and they closed their doors a year ago. I may have taken a lot of their employees, but that's merely a coincidence that cannot be proven in court. So they thought I was bluffing and tried to call it. It did not go well for them. Hot tip, when your top earner has all the cards and has been with you for 3 years running, don't fire him. I'm not vindictive, I promise. Tell me a scary story about your HOA, COA, or neighbors, Part 7. Either Christmas or New Year's Day had arrived. On every other Friday, we have a trash collection service that works in bulk. Wednesday evening, I brought down a few other bulk items in addition to the large cardboard box that I had from my tree. The location where the bulk is picked up is also a visitor spot, and visitors are not permitted to park there on Thursday, the day before, or the day of the pickup. Upon my return 30 minutes later, I find that someone has already collected everything and brought it back to the front door of my house. I believe that it's possible that someone's family had a genuine need for the parking spot for a single night, given that they're unable to park there after midnight. No way, nobody's present. One of these crazy, nosy people went through my trash to find the shipping address, and then they dragged all these items back to me, only for me to retrieve them 3 hours after midnight. Nevertheless, on Saturday, someone removed an entire Christmas tree from their apartment and simply left it on the grass in front of their apartments. This was a very unfortunate event. Far from being able to pick up in bulk, It remained there for an entire week before I sent an email to the HOA asking them to come and get it, which was not my problem. This indicates that someone cared more about me following the rules and dragging my trash bag, but not enough to make the neighborhood look nice by removing the tree, which was much lighter than my trash to begin with. Insane people are the elderly. I'm not a homeowner, but I manage properties, so I have to deal with the BS that is the HOA on a regular basis. We manage a home on the north side of town in a neighborhood that was constructed in collaboration with the state university to be an eco-friendly, sustainable home that's located in the forest without causing any disruption to the natural environment. They're constructed in the middle of a forest, and in order to protect the natural biodiversity, they have a large number of rules that are extremely stringent. I should also mention that they are very attractive. On the other hand, their HOA is not only one of the most stringent things I've ever seen, but it's also probably the most ridiculous. Prior to the arrival of some new tenants, one of our homeowners expressed interest in having her yard redesigned. Among other things, she had some new plants and sod planted in the yard. It would appear that the HOA has very stringent guidelines regarding the amount of sod that can be placed, and these guidelines are down to the foot. In this part of the country, the homeowner paid a significant amount of money to have the work done. Sod is not inexpensive, and that was the end of the matter. The Homeowners Association dispatched a representative to her residence in order to take a precise measurement of the length of the sod that she had laid down to the inch. She was 3 feet over the limit, and she was required to have all of the sod removed according to the measurements that were included in the letter that we received approximately 1 week later, given that we were in charge of the property. Despite the fact that I'm in love with these houses, I immediately rethought the possibility of ever settling down there. Exactly 2 months after I purchased my home, it was flooded. The HOA became involved and blamed my children for putting toys down the toilet, despite the fact that they're old enough to do so. After speaking with neighbors, I discovered that 5 houses in a row had been flooded. We gathered together and demanded that an independent plumber conduct an investigation into the matter. The sewage and water lines that run beneath all of the homes that are connected to the city water supply are owned by our homeowners association. In addition to the fact that they had not been repaired or flushed out for years, and that they were constructed out of a material that eroded underground, it caused raw sewage to backflow into the 5 houses that were affected, as well as flooding the grassy areas with sewage. None of my neighbors are younger than the age of 65. After admitting responsibility, the HOA convened an urgent meeting to discuss the matter of repairing the damage. For the reason that the other ladies are over the age of 70 and wheelchair-bound or disabled, I am under the age of 40. My house was finished last, and I agreed with that. On the other hand, mold was growing in the master shower, and the carpet had been destroyed by the time my house was finished being cleaned. The sewage had been cleaned from the tile floor and treated with fungal chemicals. The brand new carpet in the bedrooms, the drywall, the painting of the new drywall in the color that I selected, and the retiling of the entire shower were all necessities. At the same time that the old shower tile was being removed, the plumbing was not up to code, so that was also done. They spent approximately $15,000 on my house by itself. I told the HOA that they should never accuse my children of anything again. Was a resident of a townhouse. There was an established rule that stated commercial vehicles cannot be parked in your driveway and must be parked inside the garage. This was done with the intention of preventing work vans and trucks from giving the neighborhood an appearance of being, working class? No, I'm not sure. On the other hand, I was driving a brand new Chevrolet Colorado pickup truck. There's no commercial signage or anything else, and it's privately owned and registered to me. I got letters informing me that I was breaking the rule over and over again. In order to determine what was legally considered to be a commercial vehicle, I looked up the code for the Illinois Department of Motor Vehicles. However, there was no such definition. To discuss the matter with the board, I went to a meeting. The board of directors. We enforce that based on your B-class truck plates. The other person, but that's not what the rule says. The executive committee. That's how we enforce it. The other person. So you're enforcing the rule the way you want, not how it's written? Following the receipt of a letter informing me that I'd be subject to a fine of $1,000 for being a repeat and flagrant violator, I ultimately decided to sell my truck. Immediately after that, I put my house up for sale, and I ended up selling it during the global financial crisis that occurred around 2008 to 2009. It took an eternity to sell, and in the end, I ended up losing about $30,000 on it. However, I was able to statistically bring down the value of all of their properties, so I guess I was successful. If you want to watch the part 6, click the link here. Thank you for subscribing, the likes, and comments. We're very happy to see you all in the comments too. Thanks for support.